Yes, Doc.
Okay, so we finished with ways of improving memory. We did many ways. We concentrated on many ways. And I think everybody can remember one or two things. If you quite remember, we did the Pomodoro technique where I said there is the need for you to take regular breaks. So we did it. So we are going to the theories of memory. Theories of memory. We have different theories of memory, but one of these theories is the model theory of memory. It was proposed by Atkinson and Shiffrin. The model theory of memory. It was proposed by Atkinson and Shiffrin. The model theory of memory by Atkinson and Shiffrin. That is what we are going to concentrate on. In 1971, there was men known as Atkinson and Shiffrin. They proposed this model of theory. Other people call the model theory of memory as information processing model. So the model theory of memory is the same as the information processing theory or model. The information processing model consider the memory what we see here, as using a computer. And we know computer take a lot of things happens in the computer. So the computer was modeled as that of the memory. That is why they call their theory the model theory of memory. The model model theory of memory. Okay, the model model theory of memory says that there are three stages of memory. There are three stages of memory. The first stage is known as sensory memory or sensory register. Sensory memory. The second one is known as the short-term memory. The short-term memory. And then the last one, or the third one, is known as the long-term memory. So these are the three processes of memory. The three processes or the three stages of the model theory of memory. Sensory register or sensory memory, that is the first one. The second one is short-term memory. And then the last one is known as long-term memory. So every information that an individual will be exposed to will first be captured by the sensory memory. From the sensory memory, the information will move to the short-term memory. From the short-term memory, it will move to the long-term memory. That is it. Sensory register, short-term memory, and last one, long-term memory. We are going to consider the sensory register. The sensory register or the sensory memory. all the informations that we receive by our senses. Remember, our senses is also the same as the receptor cells. And we know we have 6 sense organs. We have the eye, the ear, the nose, the skin, the tongue, and so we have the 5 sense organs. So all the things that we receive by the sense organs or by the sensory receptor cells are stored, and they are called the sensory memory. Remember, this sensory memory stores the information on the same or on the exact copies as the exact copies. If you are looking at things, everything that we see around you, when you are storing it, it stores as the exact copy of what we see or what the senses capture. We store it the same way. When we store it in the same way, remember at that stage, we don't have any meaning. That information we are sensing don't have any meaning. We have to do our best to find meaning out of it. And that sensory register, the information can be stored or can be interpreted very well using attention. So every information that, for example, as I'm teaching you, you are storing it in the same way that I am teaching you. However, you need the process of attention before the information can be captured very well. All information stored in the sensory register are known as the sensory trace. The sensory trace. Trace is T-R-A-C-E. T-R-A-C-E. It is known as sensory trace. This sensory trace, you cannot think about it. So because the information moves fast. Right now, if you are going to town, you will see a lot of things. You will see them fast that you cannot think over it. Only those informations that you pay attention will be captured by the sensory organ. And it is these information that we capture with our sense organs form the sensory memory. And remember, from the sensory memory, the information will then be moved to the short-term memory. From the sensory memory, the information will be moved from the short-term memory, and you will need the process of attention. So the psychological process that helps information to be moved from the short-term sensory register to the short-term memory is known as attention. Any question? Now, we are still on the sensory memory. In the sensory memory, information lasts there for approximately 250 to 300 milliseconds. At the sensory memory, information lasts for approximately 250 to 300 milliseconds. Information lasts there for approximately 250 up to 300 milliseconds. The capacity of the sensory memory is also large. That is why sense organs can capture all kinds of informations. At the sensory memory, we tend to forget. And we forget through decay. We forget through decay. That is, if we are not careful, the information may get lost. That's the process by which we forget information in the sensory register is known as decay. Decay. D-E-C-A-Y. However, to avoid forgetfulness, the information need to be coded. It needs to be coded through either visual, remember I taught you, visual mode or auditory mode. Remember, I taught you that all information need to be coded either or need to be encoded either in the visual form or the auditory form. And then I also said all visual informations are coded in iconic code, and all auditory informations are in the echoic code. So I said at the sensory memory, those informations will decay if the informations are not coded. And then coding simply is the way by which we attach mental representation to the information. Coding is the process by which we attach mental representation to an information. We can only bring the information back to memory for retrieval only when it has been coded. And remember, when we say retrieval is the process of remembering the information or bringing the information back to memory. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir.
It seems today you are tired. Why?
Sir, please, we are not tired.
But your mates are quiet. Why? Is something happening?
You two are quiet. Why?
Sir, nothing is happening.
Doc, we are active. We are active,
We
Doc.
are trying to get
We are active.
so that we can ask questions.
As I said, we are learning the model theory of memory. And the model of theory of memory compare memory to a computer. And he says that computer work in the same way as memory. And I said, according to the model theory of memory, memory consists of three main storages. We have the sensory memory, the short-term memory, and then the long-term memory. First, the information needs to be stored in the sensory memory or the sensory register. And at this stage, the sensory memory or the sensory register, informations are stored for approximately 250 to 300 milliseconds. So the information don't even last for 1 minute. Then the process of forgetfulness was set in. And remember, I have also said that at the sensory memory, the process by which we forget is called decay. Decay. Decay is the process where we forget things due to a matter of time, as a result of time. We all know that when someone tells you something, and for about 3 days, no one asks you for it, we tend to forget it. That process is known as decay. The information, we have forgotten the information due to time, due to the passage of time. We tend to forget. For example, when we ask you for things that we learned when we were in primary school, we will not be able to remember. So this is due to the passage of time. So this is known as decay. And I said, we forget because the information has not been coded. Some of us, some things, we can remember some things that were taught in JHS, but some people have also forgotten. We can remember certain things, and we can also forget a lot of things because some of the information were coded whilst others were not coded. When I asked you what you learned in mathematics, you cannot remember because those things were not coded. But some can remember the poems that we we can remember. Because when I was in basic school, I quite remember we say so right now when I grew up, that I knew how it is said. Are you with me? And
Yes,
then
sir.
I said,
Yes, sir, we are
the
reading, sir.
process of remembering information, please put it in your head. The process of remembering the information or bringing information back to memory is known as retrieval. Now, let's consider the functions of the sensory memory or the sensory register. So we have two functions of sensory memory. One, it serves as a holding being. It serves as a holding being of information until other processes act on it. So when it serves as a holding being, it stores the information for some time until other processes act on it. Two, it helps to avoid immediate decay. If it is not sensory memory, the informations will decay. That is it. And then from the sensory memory, the information will move to the short-term memory through the process of attention. I have said it. Short-term memory operates as the conscious processes of information. It operates as a conscious, we are aware, because though at that memory stage, those informations have been coded. So it is done at the conscious level. Now, at the short-term memory, information lasts for approximately 12 to 30 seconds. I said at the sensory register, information stored there for about 250 to 300 milliseconds. But at the short-term memory, the information lasts for approximately 12 to 30 milliseconds. And the capacity of the short-term memory is 7 plus or minus 2. I repeat, the capacity of the short-term memory is 7 plus or minus 2. So the capacity there is between 9 to 5. But while some people their memory can take a lot of things. So some people memory can take 9 and the others can take 5. So it is 7 plus or minus 2. Now, the process, I was teaching sensory memory. I said the information may move from the sensory memory to the short-term memory through the process of attention. But the information will move from the short-term memory to the long-term memory through the process of rehearsal. I have said it, please put it in your head. Information from the short-term sensory memory to the short-term memory is through the process of attention, and information from the short-term memory to the long-term memory is through the process of rehearsal. There are 2 types of rehearsal. We have maintenance rehearsal and elaborative rehearsal. Maintenance rehearsal and elaborative rehearsal. Maintenance rehearsal is the process by which the information is kept active. So the aim of maintenance rehearsal is to keep the information active. The aim of the maintenance rehearsal is to keep the information active. Now, second one is elaborative rehearsal. elaborative rehearsal. The aim of elaborative rehearsal is to help information to be transferred from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. That is it. We have maintenance rehearsal, elaborative rehearsal. At the maintenance rehearsal, the information becomes active so that we will not forget. At the elaborative rehearsal, the information is transferred from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. Example of, let's consider this. This is an example of the capacity of the short-term memory, 7 plus or minus 2. So everybody can see that his number, that is telephone number, is 7 plus or minus 2. That is, your telephone number is either 9 or 5. 9, remember the 0 is no part. So it's 9. Okay. That is known as the capacity. Now, you should know that we can elaborate what we learn. We can elaborate the information that we learn through the process of chunking. Chunking. As I said, we can increase the maintenance, the elaborative rehearsal through the process of chunking. The chunking is the process of grouping information into smaller bits. So, for example, when we give you a telephone number to learn, we have group 8. You have group 8 to help you remember it. So when we ask you about your telephone number, some will say 0243, that is one side. 241, that is another side. That is it. So some people have grouped the information. Everybody, if he asks you to say your telephone number without grouping them, you cannot say it. Are you with me? So people have their own way of grouping the information. So someone will say his telephone number is 0243 410 921. That is the process of chunking. We group them into smaller bits to help you remember it. Even if we ask you about your index number, you have to group it to be able to remember it. That is the process known as chunking. So chunking involves grouping information into smaller bits. Now, at the short-term memory, the information may move to the long-term memory. At the short-term memory, the information may move to the long-term memory. And this long-term memory, nothing like forgetfulness occurred there. Please take note. Nothing like forgetfulness occur at the long-term memory. Nothing like forgetfulness occur there at the long-term memory. But however, However, please take note. I said, at the long-term memory, we don't forget, or nothing like memory loss. Rather, interference occur at the long-term memory. Interference occur at the long-term memory. The long-term memory is known as the repository of knowledge. That is, it stores all information from birth till death. From birth till death. It stores all kinds of information from birth till death. From the time in which we are born to the time in which we die, the long-term memory consists of everything that we can remember. The capacity of the long-term memory is extremely big. And the nature of the code changes as a function of time. So as a result of time, the information there may change from iconic to echoic based on what will help you to remember. So some information, we can only change it to visual. That is, and so at times when you see something, as soon as you see it, you are able to remember. It's as a result of the fact that those informations were stored in iconic code. And some things, when you hear it, then you remember. It's because most things are stored in the echoic code. Now, at the long-term memory, the inability, at times we cannot remember certain things, but the inability to remember some things are called amnesia. The inability to remember, at times we can't even remember our own name. That is known as amnesia. The inability to remember is known as amnesia. Amnesia. And the inability to see is known as agnosia. So at times, a lot of things we cannot see it. Even if we see our own picture, some people are suffering from agnosia in the sense that even if they see their own photograph, they will not be able to remember. That is known as agnosia. Now, we are on the process of amnesia. Some people cannot remember some things that happened to them after an injury. That is, after they had a crash in memory. They cannot remember the things that will happen after it. And so the inability to remember events after an injury. So when things happen to you, they can only remember the old things. They can remember their birthday, only the old things. That is known as anterograde amnesia. Anterograde amnesia. Please, you need to remember the inability to remember events after an injury is known as anterograde amnesia. But the inability to remember events before. So some people, when they had an accident, they cannot remember their birthday. They cannot remember their friends. They cannot even remember their parents. That is known as retrograde amnesia. Please, are you with me?
Yes, sir. Please, we are with
Yes,
you.
sir. I'm with you, sir.
Now, so please, you have to take note of anterograde amnesia and retrograde amnesia. So I'm left with teaching you certain things that we need to know. We need to know the meaning of encoding, storage, and retrieval. We need to know it. Now, if you quite remember, I said there are certain processes we need to know. You need to know what is encoding. And I have explained the meaning of encoding. Encoding simply means transforming information received from the environment into a suitable form, either through probably the visual form or the auditory form. That is known as encoding. And with the encoding, we need the process of attention. We need attention before we can encode things. And with the encoding, the information will either be encoded in either visual or auditory form. Are you with me? Now, what is storage? What is storage? We are doing the processes. The processes are encoding, storage, and retrieval. So this is encoding. Storage refers to the retention of a memory or information. Storage is the retention of information. Storage can be considered as the retention of information. So storage refers to the retention of information. Now, the type of memory or the brain that is responsible for memory processes are hippocampus and amygdala. Hippocampus, amygdala. These are the two parts of the brain that are responsible for you to encode information. So some people, if their amygdala or hippocampus is so weak, they cannot catch anything. Even if you teach them, then it passes through the back of their head. That is, you have weaker hippocampus or amygdala. And this is why some people have proposed that it is good for children to eat. If you want your child to have active memory, you need to let your child take honey. It's because the honey make hippocampus or amygdala active. So that is why we ask you to give children honey, because honey is responsible for activating the hippocampus or the amygdala. And there are parts of the memory, that is hippocampus and amygdala. Whenever there is damage to either the hippocampus or amygdala, you will have amnesia. Research has shown that people who has damages in the hippocampus or the amygdala have either anterograde amnesia or retrograde amnesia. That is the inability to remember. Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I hope you know the meaning of amygdala. You know what the amygdala does. You know what the hippocampus does. They are responsible for the memory. So if you want your child to be active, then the amygdala and the hippocampus, you need to ensure that there is no damage to these two parts. Else, they will have amnesia. They will not have the ability to remember. Please, you need to take these things that I have mentioned in mind. You need to remember storage, hippocampus, amygdala, amnesia, retrograde amnesia, anterograde amnesia. These are the things that you will have in the essay, in the fill-in. Now, the retrieval. Retrieval is the process of bringing the information back to memory. Everything that we have learned, we bring it back to memory so that you can remember those things. That is what we are talking about, retrieval. For instance, whenever you learn something, you need to be able to remember. And we can only remember when parts of our memory are active. We can only remember when you can only remember information when no damage happens to the amygdala or the hippocampus. Now, so you know that we have learned the different types of memory, where I've taught you the parts of the memory where I have taught you the parts of the memory that when damage occurs to it, you will not be able to remember. Now, there are some things that
Hello,
we
sir.
call explicit and implicit memory. Explicit and implicit memory. I have to teach you this before I close. Explicit memory and implicit memory. Explicit memory. It is memory. It consists of memory that a person is aware of. The things that we are conscious about. It consists of facts about the world. So explicit memory consists of facts about the world. It cannot be changed. Explicit memory consists of facts about the world. Example, who is the president of Ghana? Everybody knows that it is President John Mahama. It is a fact about things that we cannot change.
So I think the
So,
question was former presidential.
former president.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm talking about the president of Ghana. It's John Mahama.
Okay.
You think John Mahama is a former president?
No, sir, I was looking on the screen, so I thought on the
I'm not sure the person is a Ghanaian.
See,
I said, who is the president of Ghana?
the president, Mama, why?
And I said, Mahama. It's true. Hey,
where is your
they said
mind?
John Mahama is a former president. Akwano Kansa, I say, you're true, ma.
Oh, say, yeah, the fact is with with the explicit, say with the explicit memory, I think the last part is who is the former president of Ghana. So I was considering that one rather.
No, because I asked my own question. Who is the
Say, I'm
president
sorry.
of Ghana?
I'm sorry. Say, I'm sorry.
You want Mahama to go?
Yeah,
So what?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, I'm sorry, say, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, now the implicit memory. Implicit memory are things that we retrieve unconsciously. Implicit things are things that we retrieve unconsciously. They doesn't consist of things about facts. So if someone will ask you, when will you go out for break? This is not an explicit memory because it doesn't consist of anything about things that everyone knows. Any question? Any question? But remember, explicit information. Please remember this. Explicit information are easier to be recalled than implicit information. So the things that we learn in exams, they are all explicit information, implicit information. Things is when somebody asks you what is psychology, it doesn't consist of facts, information about facts. So at times it's difficult to remember. Those things are implicit information. Now, let me okay. Explicit information can be remembered through three main processes. Recall task. We can ask you to recall. You learn something and then you recall it. Recognition, that is, you identify a passage, you identify a particular letter within letters. And then retrieval failure. So some people cannot retrieve things because they have not been able to encode the information well. So these are the three main processes by which information can be retrieved. We at times do recall or recognition or retrieval of items. So whenever there is retrieval failure, we tend to forget. That is all. That is what we have for today. Any question?
Hello, Doc.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I want to ask, you mentioned of children taking honey to enhance their memory. Is it only honey, or some people do take a mixture of honey and then egg, raw egg?
That one has not been scientifically proven. I know a lot of people take a lot of things, but those that have been scientifically proven is the honey.
Okay.
So I talk about only facts that are scientifically proven. I don't talk about something I don't know. Okay.
Okay. So, what causes brain damage?
What causes
Brain damage or
brain
memory?
damage?
Yes.
Oh, I talk about it. Probably you may have forgotten. Whenever there is damage in the amygdala, we have different parts of the brain. So whenever there is damage to the amygdala or hippocampus through fracture, through accident, through an accident, somebody head may hit on the floor, and then there will be a damage to the amygdala. Are you with me?
Yes, please.
And whenever there is a damage to the amygdala or the hippocampus, you have the inability to remember.
Okay,
So brain damage occurs as a result of a lot of things. When there is fracture, when you have fracture, it happens when you are giving birth above 40 years.
Okay.
For the woman, whenever you have stillbirth, when you are having stillbirth, when people are not able to give birth, and then when they are being operated on, a blade can even cut the brain of the child. A lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Please, how about old age? Like menopause or something?
The old age, that one is different. We are going to learn about it.
Okay.
And now, let me explain something to you.
Please, one more.
Emotional or some events are emotional to us. So as a result, we are able to remember those informations. For example, some people can only remember an accident that occurs to their mother or to their father because it is so emotional. Some people can remember the June 4th because it is so emotional. Some people can remember the stadium disaster because it is so emotional. And memory of emotional events are called flashbulb. It is on the screen, flashbulb memories. They are memories on the emotional events. Any question?
Yeah, so how about maybe somebody is brokenhearted and all of a sudden the person have memory loss?
Someone is doing what?
Someone is heartbroken. Maybe a guy promised the lady that he will marry. They are planning
Hajia,
Sir,
Hajia, where is Hajia?
Sam, yeah.
Have you had heartbroken before?
No.
Hey.
Only pastor can tell.
Queen, where is Queen?
Sir, she's not well. Oh.
Oh, what is wrong? Is she pregnant?
No, sir.
Find out well. Oh, probably he is pregnant.
No, sir, she's not pregnant. She's just not feeling well.
We have to take her to the hospital, else I won't understand that he's not pregnant. Okay, so when someone have an impact on memory loss as a result of promise, it's not only even this thing. When there is a shock, it affects the amygdala. When someone has a shock, it has an impact on the amygdala. And we know when you have an impact on amygdala, it leads to memory loss. Are you okay?
Yes, please. Thank you.
I'm waiting for my questions. Reverend, do we have any more face-to-face meeting?
Yes, please.
We have additional one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will give you an areas that you have to study there. Any question? Any
Doctor,
question?
yeah,
Okay.
you mentioned that is it arteriosclerosis?
Arteriosclerosis.
Yes. So children that are born within that age, they are dumb.
No, like
Children who are born within
children who
that
are,
time,
yes,
are likely to be damned. That was what
they
he said.
are likely.
they are
I told
likely.
you, they are
Yeah.
likely. It's not
So
all of them.
not all of them. So those that happen to fall into that category, can their memory be improved through the taking of honey?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
But that is, it takes a lot of processes.
Okay.
Some people, even their memory need to be operated on.
Okay.
So, with the flashbulb memory, you did mention that if there is you said when something like that happens, it affects the amygdala.
Yes.
Does it mean that the amygdala is responsible for feelings in the brain?
I said that is responsible for remembering.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Any question, please? Okay. On this note, I have closed for today. We will learn. It's left with 2 things. Then I'm done with the lecture. It's left with one interesting thing that we will learn probably when we meet face to face. But next week, but let me see. Next week, isn't it holiday?
Yes, please.
Hey, so what are we going to do?
So the coming week is Easter break. So the coming weekend we will not have any lecture.
Okay. Any question? Okay.
I was told exclusive breastfeeding increases memory, and I want to find out from you.
Yes, it makes memory active.
Okay.
It makes memory active because it contains enzymes that activate the amygdala and then the hippocampus.
Okay.
So
Please, is it only in children?
it's very good. That is why we always ask you to breastfeed your children. And even research have shown that breast milk is good for men.
So that's why I'm asking if it is only in children.
It's not only for children.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
the ladies, I will ask you to at times give the guys in our class some of your breast milk so that their memory will be active.
Ask how, sir.
Bless you, sir. Bless you. Bless you.
Hey.
Okay. Do you have any question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ask.
Okay, so my question is, I know that we have a lay down principle and what we are supposed to do if we want our memory to be increased. And looking at our lessons from 30 class, you try to further your education. You are doing everything in your means to remember whatever you know so that at the end of the semester you can be bigger. But along the line, you realize you are learning, but the lessons are not sticking. What again can you do? Because I remember last week you taught us what to do to improve the memory. Maybe you'll be doing 1 or 2 or 3 of them. But yes, so you learn all right and you can remember for some short while. After some time, the thing is off, as if you haven't even seen it anywhere before. What
One
again
thing
can
that
you
you must notice that as a result of age, our memory depreciates. You must note that as a result of age, as you grow, your memory will depreciate. That is a fact. Now, to activate this memory, it is not one day job. That is why I have given you all the processes that help memory to be active. So you need to practice those techniques. Our memories cannot be the same as when we were in basic school. Are you with me? So we need to put these techniques into consideration. We must be able to practice 2 or 3 at least. Some of us don't practice. For example, you just practice only one. When you wake up, as soon as you wake up, just learn. It may be active. You may grasp certain things faster than those who don't. So our memory cannot be so active as when we were in JHS. This is because as a result of age, memory will deteriorate. So that is a fact. It's normal. Okay?
Okay, sir.
It's normal. It happens to all of us. But it needs to be, when we practice using the techniques we've considered, then it will be a little bit okay, not better as when we were in basic school, but it will be a little bit okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any question? Okay. On this note, I wish you all the best. We will meet next 2 weeks. If
Okay.
it is face to face or whatever. Okay.
I had wanted to ask one before.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if, like, there are some people who have, let's say, some supernatural memories. So I think there's this movie that I watched, The Good Doctor. So he can just put his hand on you, and then all of a sudden he'll begin to see in his mind what's wrong with a person. So are there people who have such memory?
Okay. Some things are supernatural. We cannot be explained using physical means.
Okay.
Some things are embedded in us
Okay.
from creation.
Okay.
And these
Sir,
are some of the things we cannot be explained.
Okay.
Probably through your maker. Your maker can explain it to you.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Welcome.
Sir, I think the question Abraham is asking is the doctor in question is autistic. He's
Yes.
autistic, so
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it. When he sees you, he's able to tell exactly what is wrong with you. But how to explain it is a very
What
big
is
challenge
the
for him
name of the
because
movie? Then I need to watch the movie. What's the name of title of the movie?
Good doctor.
the good doctor, yes, good doctor.
Can I watch it through the YouTube?
YouTube, yes, sir. It's on YouTube, it's on
Okay,
Netflix.
okay. I have
Yes, sir.
to watch it and see
Yes.
the reason. Then next week I
Yes.
will explain it to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll go and watch The Good Doctor. Okay.
All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Any question? Okay. I wish you all the best. Okay.
All
We
right,
will
please.
meet next week.
All right. Thank you
Take
very
good care of
much. God bless.
yourself. Okay. So next week we will have our next lecture. That is next week. Bye bye.
After next week.
Yes, after next week. After
Yes.
next week. Okay. Bye.
All right. Hello. So we have French midsem. Please, are we on?
Yeah, we are on. We are on.
Yeah. So we have French midsem coming on exactly at 9 p.m. So set your alarms, and then I've set my alarm on 8:30. So when it's 8:30 and I'm able to wake up, or I've not slept, I'll put a call through to wake all of you up to start preparing. I don't know how it's going to be, but the last time he mentioned that it may be a link, you click on it and it will take you to the questions, and within 30 minutes you have to answer. So let's be prepared, and then I wish all of us good luck. I know we are all champions. We're going to write and we're going to pass. Okay.
A quick one. The link that he is going to share, is he going to share it on the Telegram or on the WhatsApp platform? Because
Yeah. So let
as
me
at now, some of our colleagues
communicate
cannot join the
the
Telegram
Telegram
platform.
platform. Yeah. So I'll
Yes.
communicate with him, then I'll get back to you. So let's be on standby on the page. Okay.
Rev, please, what is the time again?
9 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I contacted him earlier on regarding those who are unable to join the Telegram. He said we should contact the course reps because they created a group. I don't know if you should contact the other departments who help in creating the Telegram group. If they can send an invite to those who have not joined, I think.
Yeah, I
That
think
will
some
be
people have
okay.
been sent the link and they are unable to join. I don't know if it is their phone.
With the link on our platform, one of the ladies tried joining a while ago, but she's unable to.
Yes. So I will. I'm not an admin on that Telegram, but I'll try and talk to them if they can make all the course reps an admin, so that I can easily
You can
add
send the
people.
invite.
Yes,
So
that's fine.
let's see. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. So I'll call him just right away. I'm logging off. I'll call him right now so that I'll not.
All right. Thank you.